I am your host, George Miller, and I had some things come up today, so I am going to be doing this a little briefer than usual. But as we are getting started here, I want to make sure that anybody who is joining in knows how you can engage with me here in Career Lab Wednesday. You can always jump in directly on the Zoom link provided. I love it when you do that, but be forewarned, this is being live streamed, and so it is not anonymous. If you want to remain anonymous, what you'll need to do is type your questions into the chat or into the comment section, and I will do my best to answer your questions that way. So you can ask any question career related. You don't have to try to stay on topic. I invite you to just jump in and ask whatever it is that's on your heart that you're wanting support with, whether it's interviewing, resume building, networking, managing, developing relationships with your team. And that takes us into what I want to talk about today. So, how do you effectively motivate a team? How do you help your team perform better? So often, we do not accurately assess what the problem is, and especially when we're looking at people. When we are working with people, it's so easy for me to assume that what would bother me would bother somebody else, or what would inspire me would inspire somebody else, that kind of thing. In fact, I had a session with a client this morning. We were talking about that, where with different personality styles, I might be communicating in a way that I want to be communicated to. But if I'm talking to somebody who does not communicate that way, I'm just pushing them away. So you've heard me talk about that before. We'll throw the link into our personality assessment, CARE personality assessment that Dr. Bob Wright and others designed many years ago to help hairstylists know quickly who was sitting in their chair. So check that out. It's not the topic for today, but that is a helpful tool. And as you are looking at solving the problem of increasing team productivity, I want to stop solving the wrong problem and create more meaning. Trying to motivate other people by talking about the company mission, etc., may not work. For some, it might. But what does work is the relationship. So the relationship that you have with your team, the relationship that you have with the people around you, that is going to be more effective than only trying to motivate with incentives, monetary goals, that kind of thing. That can be incredibly good. I'm not saying don't do it, but how do you help people achieve those goals? How do you motivate in a sustainable way? And some people may not care about a company's big picture mission, but people always care about their own growth. They always care about their agency, knowing that they are improving, that they are able to impact the world around them. So that is in sync. You want that from your team. And so learning how to deepen your relationship with your team members in such a way that you are helping them develop, that is more motivational, more effective in getting the most from the people you're working with. It's not transactional, it's relational. So, I think about the classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And we can apply that to this question of how to motivate your team. People respond when they're feeling seen and valued, and when how they're improving is pointed out. It's not just when they're pushed harder. Having an expectation for your team is fantastic, but you don't want to be the one trying to push them towards it. It's more of an invitation to meet that expectation. So that's the first point, is that meaning is made in relationship. It's not just in the mission. So how are you deepening the relationships with the people around you? How are you inspiring that way, getting to know more about them? So that takes us into our second point. So there's a book, Elite Sales Strategies. And this is important because I think too many times managers will be too buddy-buddy. We'll think, oh, okay, great, I'm good at relationship. Let me just stay with that. No, you need both. You need to have authority. You need to recognize where you have more wisdom and have, again, setting expectations, having standards for people to rise to. And so that there's all kinds of cool research on that one of the things you want to do as a manager is set the expectations really high for your team. But then you're not, criticizing them and yelling at them to try to get them to meet it. But you do set high expectations. You do demand a lot from people. People like being demanded from, to know, like, yeah, like I can do this. That's an important thing. So I'm not saying don't do that. You don't want to be too buddy-buddy. You want to look at where your authority is. It's authority plus relationship equals engagement. And I love that book, Elite Sales Strategies, because it talks about that. It talks about understanding where you are the authority in a relationship. We used to have always be closing in sales, always just get them to sign. Doesn't work, hasn't worked for a long time. It's way more about relationship, about attunement, being attuned with who you're talking to, and buoyancy, going back and able to field those questions, and consistency. And so that has really changed. Dan Pink's book, To Sell is Human, the fantastic book. And I think there's a new thing emerging, though, which is also understand the ways that you are the authority, that it's the relationship with you that's important. And I think about that because now there's so much information. I can do research on a product that I want to buy, but you know what? I don't want to do the research. I want to have somebody that I trust, that I have a good relationship with, that I know is not going to screw me over. That matters more now. And so, again, understanding where you do have a one-up on somebody, where you're not equal. You can have a mutual relationship. That's what we're gunning for. We're aiming for a mutual relationship with our team, but it's not equal. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. So you need to look at how you do know more, how you have more experience, how you assess people better, whatever it is that your gifts are, and understand that it's, again, that expectation, you having the position of authority, but that's different than superiority. That's different than I don't know, I'll say inequality. It's different. It's just, if you have been at a company for a longer period of time, you understand how that company works more. And so you have a type of authority there. Same way, then this is where it can be mutual, is somebody coming in sees things with new eyes, sees things in a new light. And that's an important thing. So again, it's not about trying to make everything equal, but it's about the mutuality in the relationship. So owning your authority matters. You set the standard, but then it's the relationship with the people around you that really helps them meet those standards. So one of my clients, for a long time, he was trying to get the facilities team to have everything cleaner, more organized. And it's good practice, but there was a culture. He came into a culture that allowed a level of uncleanliness that was nothing egregious, but it's not up to his standards. And he knew that they could do a better job, and he started to see ways that, hey, when things aren't as organized as they could be, there's breakdowns that happen, and especially if a big order comes in, then there's unnecessary scrambling happening. And so, he's got that experience. He's run his own companies, etc. So he knows this. And he's telling everybody, no, you got to put that away, do that, and like this. And he's like doing it. He's getting in there. He's micromanaging. And he's not getting the results he wants. And he's just frustrated with it. And motivation of saying, like, you'll feel so much better when everything is organized. Look at our company mission. Like, we need to, nobody cared. Nobody was going to change their behavior because one person was yelling at them. So took him a while, but when he did it and he started implementing this, he just started getting to know people more, started having one-on-one conversations with people as much as he could. And he's actually good at it. He likes doing that. He's been in sales, so he likes developing relationships. So he's developing the relationship with his team, and lo and behold, they started organizing more. And then he was able to bring in little bits of like, oh yeah, it's nice. Yeah, you were able to get out on time today because everything was how you knew it would be. So he was able to start kind of putting in the ways, that he had been yelling at him before, getting frustrated, and then saying, see, I was right about that. It's good to see you implementing what we talked about, what I've wanted for you. But it came out of him developing more of a relationship with his team. That just reminded me of another client from years ago. Same thing. Now they were on hitting sales goals. He was managing a team, and he was frustrated with them. Like he can see that they're not doing the amount of dials they need to do. They're not having the cross communication they need to have. All of this stuff. So he, bark orders at him, and just in meetings would be frustrated. Well, when he took on the assignment of making eye contact, I remember that. Yeah. The simple thing of making eye contact with people, he found himself then walking through, it was an open space office, cuticles, but open, so that it was easy to communicate with people. And as he would walk through and make eye contact with people and check in with them, just see how they're doing, the dials went up, the cross communication went up, and they hit their sales goals. So he was not trying to push them as much as he was setting the standard and then having the relationship with this team, and that then helped give them their own motivation, help them drive themselves instead of him trying to drive them. All right, so I hope that's helpful. As we are getting going here, I'm going to be signing off a little early. There's a sad thing that came up that I'm going to be attending to, and I want you to know that if you have any questions, drop them into the comment section or jump in directly here on Zoom. You got a few minutes with me. I'm happy to coach, but know that it is being live streamed. And I'm going to move into my third and final point. You don't have to try to stay on this topic. You can have any question that's career related. Feel free to throw it into the comment section. As I move into the third point, it's that feedback is fuel for meaning. So if your team has lost steam and the work feels flat or transactional, feedback that highlights the growth, that points out to people on your team, here's where you were 3 months ago. Now I see you performing at this level. That's great. What does it take to get you performing at this level? That's an example of a way that you can engage meaningfully that will inspire that will inspire them, that will inspire people on your team. So you don't want to just be managing tasks. You want to have meaning makers, helping people see how their effort ties to their personal improvement and to the shared success of the team. So it's about helping people see the impact that they're making. That's one of the most important things is, recognition and appreciation. When that's not done, there's just not as much motivation. There's just not as much connectivity on your team. And we thrive on connection. Humans are social creatures, even if we're introvert. Even an introvert has ways that they want to engage with humans, society. Even watching a movie. I mean, that's an incredibly human thing. Playing a video game. That's when we take it to the extreme introvert. We still thrive on human connection. And an extrovert, probably wants a lot more human connection. And so your job as a team leader is to facilitate more connectivity. That will, and your team will generate their own meaning from that. You don't have to be trying to force feed it. And again, feedback helps create more meaning, helps people recognize their own growth. The number of people I've talked to who say, I just don't hear how I'm progressing, and I'm not getting recognition, or like, oh, hey, that was good that you did that. Like, so it's like, I think I'm doing a good job, but I don't really know. Like, that's a problem. That if I don't have the reflection reflected back to me about the impact that I'm making, like, how would I know that it's happening? It's hard for me as a human to process the impact. So positive affirmation is huge. Affirming your team is probably like one of the best things you can do. Now, again, I don't mean it in this, I don't know, bootlicking, ass kissing kind of way. It's got to be, you got to be real with it. You got to actually notice what is happening on your team and what people's particular gifts is. You need to highlight those. You don't just get to generalize stuff and say, all right, great job, everybody. And sometimes that works, but you need to really recognize the people on your team, see them as individuals. Then you have the high standards, and you can say targeted things to people, knowing what is important to them. Client of mine this morning, working with, she's got a builder in, and she was saying, yeah, like, he's got a really flat affect, doesn't show a lot of emotion. And I'm just kind of like uncomfortable with him. He's doing a great job, but like, and so what we worked on was, oh, well, you don't need to tell him good job, like in your kind of over the top, like cheerleader way. Try being specific and matching his tone and saying, I really appreciate your attention to detail. Oh, I can see how well you made everything line up. I so appreciate that you asked me all the questions to ensure that this was going to be a good production and you were going to give me exactly what I wanted. That's just great. That kind of, so notice the difference. She, her historical way of doing it would have been like, great job, you're doing so well. And now she's more targeted, more specific in her feedback. And we'll see. That was this morning. I want to see next week how that goes for her. Like if she notices that, you know, he's doing an even better job with the project. So, okay. Well, great. Everybody, thank you for joining in today. Again, I'm signing off a little early. There's something came up and I want to get to it. But I wanted to jump on here as well. And I loved the topic today, so I wanted to address it. So again, you stop solving the wrong problem. When you're working with your team, don't worry about motivation. It's about the meaning. I mean, you could track people's motivation, see if you assess that they're more motivated. But it's how you do it. It's how you get your team motivated. You set high standards, you develop the relationship with them, and you give them the positive feedback about how you see them developing. And they will come up with creative solutions that you wouldn't have thought of. And then you can appreciate them for that. All right, everybody. Thanks again. I will be back next week. I'm here almost every Wednesday. Many blessings. Again, we threw the link to the personality assessment in there if you want to take it. It can be quite helpful for many of your relationships. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.